I want you to think about the last time a really small, like seemingly insignificant expense in your life just suddenly ballooned into a massive headache.
Oh, yeah. Like ignoring a weird sound in your car until the engine practically falls out.
Exactly. Or, okay, let's unpack this. It's like a leaky faucet in your personal finances.
Right, a leaky
Yeah,
faucet.
an expense that creeps up so slowly it goes completely unnoticed, right? Until the monthly numbers become deeply uncomfortable. And that is exactly what our deep dive is about today.
It is. We're getting into a fascinating strategy piece from Greystride.
They're a fleet management consultancy, right?
Yeah, specifically focusing on long-haul transport operations down in South Africa.
And the whole mission today is to explore how this incredibly mundane, detailed truck tires is actually, well, it's a masterclass in systems thinking.
It really is. It covers data analysis, operational discipline, you name it. And we're talking about massive operations here. Tautliners, flat decks, side tippers, super links.
I mean, even if you don't own a trucking company, you should care about this.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it perfectly illustrates how mastering the absolute most basic touch point of a system can just revolutionize an entire operation's profitability.
Yeah, it's all about the foundation. And with these heavy configurations, especially super links,
Wait, a superlink, that's essentially two huge trailers hitched together, right?
exactly, pulling up to 50 tons of cargo across a continent, the sheer kinetic energy passing through the tires on those combinations is just staggering.
Which brings us to this big illusion. Because, we often view a blown tire on the highway as just a stroke of bad luck.
Right, an unavoidable act of nature.
Yeah. You hit a pothole or some debris, and bam, you're calling roadside assistance. But Greystride argues aggressively against this idea of the random blowout.
They do, because tires rarely just fail randomly. Premature wear and these catastrophic blowouts, they're almost always a slow-moving disease.
A disease caused by what, exactly?
Systemic issues, underlying operational failures like overloading, bad driving, inconsistent maintenance. But before you can fix a leak, you have to find out exactly where the water's coming from.
Right, the visibility aspect, which means data.
Exactly. Granular data. Greystride insists that fleets cannot just log that they bought a new set of tires.
Oh no, the level of detail they demand is intense.
It really is. They need to track the exact purchase date, have the specific axle position that tire's mounted on.
Wow, even the axle.
Yeah. Every single kilometer it travels, its entire rotation history, any puncture repairs, and the exact reason it was eventually removed.
See, I have to play the skeptic here for a second. Is tracking all of this really worth the time?
I get that a lot of fleet managers push back on this.
I mean, isn't a tire just a tire? It feels like counting paperclips, The administrative burden alone. If you have 200 trucks, thousands of wheels moving around the country.
What's fascinating here is how tracking transforms tire management from this reactive, annoying cost into a highly controllable operational lever.
So the data actually pays off.
Massively.
Hmm.
Without it, you are treating a multi-$100 asset like a disposable paperclip, which is how companies go bankrupt. With data, patterns emerge.
Like what kind of patterns?
Well, you might see that specific routes are just destroying tires.
Ah, like a heavily potholed provincial road.
Right. Or you see if certain axles wear faster, which points to a mechanical issue. Or, you might even find that one specific driver has a suspiciously high failure rate.
Oh, wow. So you stop buying replacement tires blindly and actually start fixing the root cause.
Exactly. But of course, the data only tells you where the money is bleeding. The physical maintenance determines why it's happening.
Which brings us to the mechanics. And this completely upends how consumers normally think about buying things.
It really does. Because in most fleets, tire life is determined far less by the premium brand name stamped on the rubber.
Right, you can't just buy your way out of it.
And more by baseline maintenance discipline.
Okay, let's break that down, because the physics here are wild, like tire pressure.
Oh, pressure's everything. If you drive a sedan, a low tire might cost you a tiny bit of fuel economy. On a 50-ton Superlink, underinflation generates excessive heat.
Because the tire is flexing, right?
Exactly. The sidewall flexes drastically every time it rotates. It's like taking a metal paperclip and bending it back and forth rapidly.
Like it's burning hot at the bend.
Yes, and that internal heat literally delaminates the tire from the inside out.
That's terrifying. But then overinflation is just as bad, isn't it?
It is. Overinflation balloons the tire, it reduces your contact patch with the road, causes rapid uneven wear, and destroys the truck's suspension because the tire loses its pneumatic cushion.
So you lose in both directions. But it's not just pressure. What about alignment?
Misalignment causes scrubbing against the road, especially on the steer axles.
Scrubbing.
Yeah, imagine dragging a heavy rubber eraser sideways across a rough desk for 100,000 kilometers. It just grinds the tire away.
That reminds me of running a marathon, actually.
Oh, how so?
Well, it doesn't matter if you buy a $1,000 pair of premium running shoes. If your gait is fundamentally misaligned, like if you drag your foot every time you land, you're going to wear through the soles and ruin your knees.
That is a perfect analogy.
Yeah. The shoes aren't the problem, right? The alignment of the system is the problem.
Exactly. And that's why proactive maintenance is non-negotiable. If you wait for the driver to complain the truck is pilling to the left, the tires are already ruined.
Right. And you also mentioned suspension.
Yeah, worn shocks or loose components put abnormal stress on the tires. It makes them bounce and slam back onto the tarmac, causing erratic wear. Small mechanical issues compound terrifyingly fast over long distances.
So you really need that proactive versus reactive mindset.
Absolutely.
But even perfectly maintained, perfectly aligned tires are ultimately at the mercy of the human behind the wheel.
Right. Oh, 100%. The driver influences tire wear far more than most fleet owners realize.
So we're transitioning from mechanics to human behavior now. Obviously, we know about hard braking, aggressive acceleration.
Making corners way too fast.
Right, the obvious culprits. But the source highlights more subtle, destructive habits. And here's where it gets really interesting.
Stationary turning.
Yes. I never thought about the sheer physical friction of grinding a heavy loaded truck tire against the pavement while completely parked.
It is brutal on the equipment. You have the entire weight of the engine block pressing down. When the truck is rolling, momentum helps. But deadlocked. The power steering pump is forcing that rubber to twist directly against abrasive pavement.
Just tearing up the tread.
Massive shear stress, yeah.
And climbing curbs is another one they mention?
Curbing is fatal. The sidewall of a tire is relatively thin, so it can flex. When a driver misjudges a corner and drags that fully loaded trailer tire up and over a concrete curb.
Oh, it pinches the sidewall against the steel rim.
Exactly. It snaps the internal cords. The tire becomes a ticking time bomb.
So how do fleets fix this? You can't put a manager in the passenger seat of every truck.
Well, Greystride says punitive measures don't work. Awareness training is key.
Educating them on the physics.
Yes. When drivers actually understand how tire care impacts their own safety, when they see how underinflation compromises the cab they sit in, behavior naturally improves.
That makes total sense. They become active stakeholders.
Precisely. They start reporting slow leaks before they become catastrophic blowouts.
Okay, so let's say a fleet optimizes their internal data, their mechanics are flawless, and their drivers are perfectly trained.
The holy grail.
Right. But then you have to look outward to your supply chain, how you actually buy the tires.
And this is where a lot of companies trip up. Because the lowest purchase price is a trap.
A trap.
Yeah. The true metric you need to look at is cost per kilometer, or CPK.
So a more expensive tire up front could be way cheaper in the long run.
Exactly. But it's also about the supplier relationship. A good supplier unlocks massive value.
Like what kind of value?
Failure analysis, for one. If a tire blows, they forensically examine it to tell you why. They run pressure management programs.
Oh, that's smart.
And they match the tire to the specific job. Long-distance line haul needs vastly different rubber than a tipper truck on a rocky mining route.
If you put a highway tire on a mining route, it'll get chewed up in days.
Exactly. But the biggest key here, the magic of the supply chain strategy, is the second life of the tire.
The retread concept.
Yes. High-quality retreads offer massive savings.
Okay, can you explain how that actually works physically?
Sure. A commercial tire has two parts. The casing, which is the expensive steel and fabric skeleton, and the tread, which is just the wearable rubber skin on top.
Right.
When the tread wears down, if the casing is healthy, a facility can bake a brand new tread onto that old skeleton. You get a like-new tire for a fraction of the cost.
So wait, if I buy the cheapest tire, am I basically robbing myself of that second life retread opportunity?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, absolutely. Cheap tires have weak casings. Under extreme heat, they warp. When you send them to be retreaded, they get rejected.
Wow.
You cannot vulcanize a new tread onto a warped skeleton. And it goes back to maintenance, too. Good maintenance and driving protect both the first and second life of the tire. A tire isn't a single-use purchase.
It's a multi-life cycle asset.
Exactly. It requires an invested partner, not just a cheap vendor.
Which brings it all together. How does this hyperfixation on tires actually change the bottom line?
It creates a massive ripple effect.
Yeah.
Better fuel efficiency, for starters.
Because Properly inflated, aligned tires roll with less friction.
Right. Less rolling resistance equals less fuel burn. You also get increased vehicle uptime.
Trucks aren't stuck on the side of the road waiting for repairs.
Exactly. Improved safety and just overall fleet profitability. Many transport businesses obsess over fuel, freight rates, driver wages.
But they ignore the tires.
They do. But high tire costs are rarely just about the tires. They are a glaring signal of deeper operational flaws.
So what does this all mean? I mean, for the listener, right, whether you are managing a logistics fleet in South Africa or, I don't know, running a tech startup,
Hmm.
the physical details you ignore are often the clearest indicators of your overall operational health.
It's so true. Fixing the tire problem forces a company to fix its entire culture. Data, mechanics, training,
Mhm.
suppliers, it all has to align.
Well, this has been an incredibly eye-opening deep dive into Greystride's insights. Thank you to everyone listening for coming on this journey with us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. It's amazing how data, maintenance, and relationships turn a creeping cost into a strategic advantage.
It really is. And I want to leave you, the listener, with a final provocative thought to ponder on your own today.
Oh, I like this one.
If tires are the physical, measurable data points of a truck's journey, what is the tire in your own life or business? What is that boring, everyday expense or habit that is secretly recording every misaligned step you take, just waiting for you to track it, optimize it, and completely change your trajectory? Keep thinking about that, and we'll catch you next time.